and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, we've emerged post-lockdown, but there are a whole lot of issues that the Prime Minister and the government really have to deal with. Of course, that is one is, of course, is managing the post-COVID fallout, both in terms of the economy, in terms of the image, and in terms of actually managing and handling COVID, because there is a new variant around the corner. We are already talking about a third wave, and we haven't even got out of the second wave. So in the past, of course, the Prime Minister did face a lot of flack for what happened during the second wave. He has tried to amend that. He has re-emerged. He has addressed the people. He is handling issues hands-on. But at the end of the day, has he been able to do some narrative control? Has he been able to do some damage control and wrest the narrative back? Let's see what he's been doing since post the lockdown. He's come, he's addressed the nation, he's spoken about vaccinations. He even tried to, say it wasn't his fault, but the state's fault that there was all this chaos regarding the shortage of vaccinations. Then politically, what has he done? The BJP has moved into full gear. They are focusing on various states, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka. They've been looking at Rajasthan. They've been trying to do damage control in various states. That's hogged a lot of headlines. It shows a party that's rolling up its sleeves and getting down to business. And now, of course, is the meeting on Jammu and Kashmir. That assumes a lot of importance because that was really in the Prime Minister's in tray ever since August 2019. So has he been able to, wrest back the headlines, wrest back the narrative, and actually show a prime minister who has things under control and is working instead of, someone who let things slide out of hand? I have joining me on this discussion Radhika Ramaseshan. She is a consulting editor with Business Standard and a columnist for Mumbai Mirror. I have Sanjay Kumar. He's a former director of CSDS. Yashwant Deshmukh, founder and director of Sea Voter. And Sandeep Ghosh, columnist and commentator and familiar face on my roundtable. Radhika, I'll begin with you. Has the Prime Minister been able to wrest back the narrative?
Yeah, one thing is narrative management, headline management has always been the BJP's forte for a long time. Of course, I mean, it has to be emphasized that during the height of the pandemic, which really got cataclysmic and quite out of hand, the Prime Minister was kind of missing. He was not really visible after the high voltage campaign in Bengal. I mean, that was followed by a devastating pandemic, deaths and so on. So now he's trying very hard to wrest the narrative back and bring it under control. And you listed the number of things that he has been doing. I mean, let's just take a couple of quotes. Pandemic control or pandemic management, if you please. Now, unlike before the second wave, this time you have experts like Dr. Guleria warning that the third wave is coming sooner than expected. It will probably be more virulent because of the new Delta Plus virus. So we have to be kind of prepared. Now, so the warnings are coming well in advance from government sources. So, obviously this time the government can't be accused of napping. Now, the other thing is that the Prime Minister announced a massive vaccination drive. Okay, for a day it made headlines. After that, it's been kind of patchy, up and down, and for Madhya Pradesh, for instance, had a record. Vaccinated a record number of people on one day, and then there was a drop. Now we come to the second initiative that the government took, namely reaching out to the J&K, the parties from the valley. Yes, there were some representatives from Jammu as well. Any outreach to the troublesome Kashmir Valley is to be welcomed, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the background is. And the background is not a happy one at all. After the various measures that the government took in 2019, there was a lot of discontent. There were political leaders were in prison until recently, So the backdrop was not a very happy one, yet it is to the credit of the parties in the valley that they accepted the Prime Minister's invitation. All of them came, heard him out, exchanged notes, and apparently it was held in a cordial atmosphere. Of course, statehood, restoration of statehood was on top of their priorities. It's not very clear whether they've been promised because the government's whole emphasis was on conducting delimitation. and holding polls. And if delimitation is carried on as it probably will, the Valley is going to probably lose out on the number of seats. I mean, that is very, very clear.
Yashwant Deshmukh, you are a person who reads these signs and who can interpret this. So, what do you make out of the things the Prime Minister has been doing post the lockdown? Has it helped get back some of the goodwill?
I said the numbers have certainly improved. I mean, I can even show you if you are allowing me to post. I mean, allow me to share a screen. Otherwise, you can simply go on cvoterindia.com and you can check on the issue of, because it has all the COVID tracker thing and the question where we have asked, do you think that government is handling the COVID situation well? And that number, which had gone down, crashed down big time, in the last 1 month or so, it has recovered a lot in that way. And almost about 12 percentage point improvement among the people who said that they are very much satisfied the way government is handling. It used to be as high before, as high as like 60% extremely satisfied on COVID situation in January, and then it crashed down to almost like 38%, in the May first week kind of thing. And right now it has crawled back to 51%. So you can get an idea of that, almost crashed from 60 to 40 and now recovered to 50. I'm giving you the ballpark idea how people are satisfied on COVID situation. I'm only talking about this particular question, whether the government is handling the COVID well. So yes, it's like 2 steps backward and 1 step forward right now. So 1 step forward is definitely is still not back to the normal high that the government is used to, the Prime Minister is used to. It will take a long curve, I believe, for the damage control, but definitely the damage control has started.
To the government, how do you see his moves in terms of the Kashmir?
People are not realizing it yet, but it has a very, very significant dimension because as we know that the delimitation in Kashmir has not been done for many decades, and the base of the delimitation has been almost like 40-year-old census, and which is unscientific, not done, and that was deliberate to keep the more seats in Kashmir Valley and less seats in Jammu region, even though Jammu region for all practical matters has more population than Kashmir Valley. So obviously the delimitation is critical. And what I have heard, Radhika might correct me if it is the correct information, they are not intending, Radhika, to decrease the number of 46 seats from Valley. That will send a wrong signal. What they are planning to do is to increase the number of seats in the new Jammu and Kashmir state,
Sure.
As we may call it. And the new seats which will be increased will go into Jammu quota, and probably they will try to bring parity into the number of seats that might be equal or even more in Jammu, that I am not aware of, going by the delimitation exercise. But yes, they will not reduce the number of seats in Kashmir Valley. They will probably increase the overall strength of the assembly. And that assembly also has 24, if I'm not wrong, Sandeep might correct me here, or Sanjay Bhai, 24 seats which are reserved for the seats in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Will that be remaining there? Because that's an interesting proposition, because those seats fall into what is now the Union Territory of Ladakh. That that extension, geographical extension of Ladakh. So I doubt that they will that part of those reserve seats will fall into Jammu Kashmir Assembly now.
Sanjay, your take on this Jammu and Kashmir meeting, was it done just to improve? Because, as he said, as Yashwantji said also, 370 was a very popular move, it got him a lot of popularity. So the timing of this J&K meeting right now, was it to get an image bump when he realized that his ratings are sagging?
No, I don't think that. Yes, I agree that Prime Minister Modi is a very image conscious person. And if we look at many steps which government has taken, there is an inbuilt element of building the image or regaining the lost popularity. But the meeting which was held yesterday about Jammu and Kashmir, that is not entirely linked, in my opinion, that is not entirely linked to the image building exercise. I think there is an element of that in this meeting as well. But I think the signal which he's trying to give to the country as well as to the leaders of Jammu and Kashmir is he want to head with what has happened in Jammu and Kashmir. He want to bring things back on the rail. Delimitation is an issue. He want to sensitize the leaders of Jammu and Kashmir that this is the way I want to move ahead in bringing Kashmir back on the track. So I think there is more than the meeting of Jammu and Kashmir was more than just building an exercise, image building exercise, more than to give a message that he want to move ahead and restore normalcy in Jammu and Kashmir.
Sandeep, your take on the meeting and the timing of the meeting yesterday?
See, yesterday's meeting, it has been linked with two things, as you were saying about the signal for that to show that he is under control. But yesterday's meeting had two elements. There was definitely, we cannot deny, there was an external factor involved in yesterday's meeting. And apart from the fact that they cannot indefinitely stretch the current situation, they'll have to move towards a political resolution, and which was in any case a commitment of the government, both by the Prime Minister as well as the Home Minister. So therefore, yesterday's meeting, to my mind, was a kind of, it may not have been spoken. It is a trade-off to say that, yes, we are moving ahead with the elections, but you guys need to cooperate on the delimitation because that is critical to do. So you play ball on the delimitation with whatever way it will take, safeguard your concerns, blah, blah. That is number one. And certainly don't now make a fuss about 370, 35A. So you'll find, therefore, everybody was very muted. Even people who spoke outside, they made some token noises about 35A and 370, not a hard deal. So that was, I think, the main purpose, because they would like to move towards the election, and sooner the better. So we are looking at December. Some people yesterday commented, why can't it be done by autumn? I don't know what is the external commitments or external indications they have, but they're definitely moving in that direction. And for that, this was to set the ground, prepare the ground for that.
But Radhika, we also saw a lot of internal, the workings back to politics, what was happening in UP, in Rajasthan, cabinet reshuffle, as opposed to the Congress, which is still, still to figure out who's going to lead the party. So compare the two parties, the BJP really looks like it's back to business.
Absolutely. First, let's take Uttar Pradesh. There are issues in Uttar Pradesh which await resolution, but unlike the Congress, the BJP was on its feet quite fast. I mean, there were a series of meetings which have been widely reported, so I won't go back into the meetings. However, for the moment, it seems clear that Yogi Adityanath is going to lead the party into the elections with checks and balances, probably. Now, the interesting element is that tomorrow, June 26th, the Prime Minister has called a virtual meeting with the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister and his officers on Ayodhya. Now, Ayodhya is becoming a bit of a mess because of the land scam issues that have come up, pretty well documented. I mean, these are not some baseless allegations. Some news portal has done an investigation and so on. Now, that I would imagine would worry the BJP and the centre as well as the UP government, because Ayodhya with 370 is one of their core issues, and they were all set to unveil the temple, as it were. The temple construction is about to begin, and they do want to see at least half a temple in place before the 2024 elections. Now, here you have serious allegations about land scam. So I would imagine that is something which is worrying the BJP as well as the centre. Then you have, they're trying to put their house in order in Karnataka. I mean, poor Mr. Yediyurappa, he's perennially in trouble. His leadership is constantly challenged. And there is a sense that the centre has not come out fully in support of Mr. Yediyurappa, because there are also certain functionaries at the centre who do not want to see him. Anyway, that matter has also been resolved, and the dissidents who it seemed were being encouraged by the centre have been asked to pipe down for the moment. Now, that leaves Rajasthan. Rajasthan is a problematic state, and my thesis is that Sachin Pilot would have joined the BJP long ago were it not for Vasundhara Raje Scindia, who obviously doesn't want any power centers. I mean, the central BJP has tried its level best to marginalize her, but there she is. She keeps popping up because the BJP has not been able to really cultivate a second line leadership in Rajasthan. She still remains the face of the BJP in the state. So Rajasthan is, I would imagine, a problematic state even now. But yes, compared to the Congress, the BJP has gone very fast with its political management.
Yashwanji, the fact, the Ayodhya issue that Radhika brought up, will it be the big ticket issue in UP, and is the BJP, or will it work against the BJP, this scam that has come out?
Difficult to say, but I'm of the opinion that Ayodhya thing is kind of already settled. I mean, the core base support of the BJP, which is like too much swayed by the sentiment of Ayodhya, for them it is a issue which is done and dusted. And if you look into the social media noise and the reaction to what the land scam allegations were, it almost looked like there were few undercurrents, like, itna bada kaam ho raha hai to kuch na kuch to ye sab hoga. Number 1. Number 2, these are all propped up by those who are frustrated with the Ayodhya development. How can they let it go without any problem? They will find some issues to figure out. Number 3, the person who was indirectly or directly named or brought in, Champat Rai ji, I mean, in that way, the way the RSS has been standing rock solid behind him, and he is a person, like, his life has been open book. He's one of those characters in public life where no matter how much mud you sling at him, it just doesn't stay in that way, because, I mean, he is a different character. So what I'm simply trying to say, yes, in perception, it must have done damage, but the damage must have happened over on the anti-BJP voting bloc more, for making more noise. But as far as their committed bloc on this issue is concerned, I don't think this will impact them much. They are more focused on getting this done. They are more focused even on getting this done before 2024 for sure. Somehow there is also a section of their voters who is saying that, you know what, abhi jab tak sarkar hai tab tak ye kaam karwa lo. I mean, it's a kind of very weird argument, but yes, it's not an argument which says that we don't know if we will come back on 2024 or not. It is just one of that argument ki aankh ke samne isko karwa lo. You have to hammer it down and you have to get it done. We need a temple before 2024 happens. It suits the agenda of the BJP leaders because they also want to get it done to show as a showpiece before 2024. But as far as the committed cadre base of the RSS and BJP is concerned, they are more like get it done before 2024 as a matter of fact. I mean, they both want to do the same thing, but for obviously different reasons, So, I mean, I don't see that land controversy having any electoral impact as such at this point of time. I think that they will just, push it further, harder.
Who has the edge in UP according to you, as of now, as of this moment?
In UP? Definitely BJP. I mean, there is no question about it, and it's pure brutal arithmetic which will pull it away. And no matter what the controversy that we have seen, the data clearly shows, Priya, that Yogi Adityanath still happens to be the most popular person in Uttar Pradesh to be the chief minister by miles. I mean, he is like having a rating of almost like 40s, and then followed by Akhilesh in the 20s, and follows by and few points behind Akhilesh is Mayawati. And another thing which I want to say, there is a consistent writing and analysis and a tone which is going around as if Mayawati or BSP is going to melt down and the anti-BJP votes are going to get polarized for the SP, just the way strategically Congress and the left melt down in West Bengal. First of all, Congress and left did not melt down strategically in West Bengal. That's the biggest BS I have heard, in a long time. I mean, people just went lock, stock and barrel. There was no strategy, and that lock, stock and barrel movement happened in Malda, Murshidabad, and particularly the Muslim votes. Sanjay Bhai can confirm this from his post-poll analysis on that. So it was not strategic. They melted on their own, number one. That is not going to happen in UP simply because Mayawati and BSP are not going to melt down. No matter what, their lowest possible rock bottom figure will remain 15%, upper side will remain 25%, and they hover around 20-odd%. So no matter how hard Akhilesh Yadav tries, the Jata voters or the Dalit voters of Mayawati are not going to swing towards the Akhilesh Yadav. The Brahmins or upper caste which might go to BSP, if they swing back, they will swing back to BJP, not to Samajwadi Party. So that is not going to happen. So no matter what the things are like that, Mayawati and BSP are not really facing a meltdown. Yes, she is uncharacteristically very, very calm, quiet, and silent. But it doesn't mean BSP is going to see a meltdown. It will be a quadrangular or triangular contest if it is so, because Congress stand needs to be cleared. We need to look into that. But come what may, at this point of time, the tracker clearly shows a very definite and huge gap between the BJP and the Samajwadi Party, and Yogi Adityanath is sitting pretty.
Sanjay, your take on this UP situation and the BJP's plans to bring back Ayodhya, because there's no development, so Ayodhya pe hi ladai hogi na unki, to Yogi Adityanath as the face.
I wish I had spoken earlier than Yashwant, because otherwise it would look like I have stolen everything from Yashwant. I would ditto whatever Yashwant ji has said, that yes, BJP is ahead. There is no way, and it is purely because of the nature of contest in UP. In a multi-cornered contest, BJP would have a lead. BJP, along with the allies, got 45% votes in the last 3 elections which BJP contested: 2014 Lok Sabha, 2019 Lok Sabha, and 2017 Lok Sabha. In order for BJP to lose UP, they need to go down by at least 10-12% vote, and all these votes should shift to one political party. It is unlikely to happen. First, BJP has not lost 10% vote defending its government during last 7-8 years in no states. Even if they lost election in, say, Jharkhand, they have not lost 10% vote. So that's not unlikely to happen, and all the votes can't get shifted to Samajwadi Party. So BJP definitely has an edge in UP, at least at this moment.
One more question. We've seen Aam Aadmi Party enter UP. Will they make a difference, Sanjay ji?
I don't think that they will make a difference, precisely because Indian voters don't want to waste their vote. So either a huge majority of the voters will vote for either BJP, or if they don't want to vote for BJP, they will look for the party which is in a position to defeat BJP. So between BJP and the number 2 party, which is likely to be Samajwadi Party, they're going to get a lot of votes. Aam Aadmi Party will be a very poor 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever we may call, less than 10%. Less 10% is too high a number. They might end up with 2% votes, not more than that, even less than those.
Congress or Aam Aadmi Party, which will be last?
Oh, I think Aam Aadmi Party. Definitely Congress will do better than Aam Aadmi Party.
Sandeep, I'll give you the last word to, wind up to get the conclusion marks out of this. The next big test really is UP, and that's where all the focus is going to be. So the moves that the Prime Minister is making, is it even the Jammu and Kashmir move is also to, in a way, to again send a message to the Hindu vote bank also, can we link that?
You can link everything, but I think what the Prime Minister, the message he's giving is he's back in control and in charge, and you'll see him in a much more, I think, decisive mode going forward. Because one thing is, this is a window, and Sanjay ji and Yashwant may agree with me, when he doesn't have any election. I have a separate thesis for what happened in March, April. One point, keeping apart whether you call the Kumbh a super spreader or the election rallies, they were on a defensive. The Prime Minister could not take a hard call on any of these issues when he was himself, going and campaigning, or they were allowing. So they had to, get into a phase where they were low on action. Now all that behind him, and he was waiting for the surge to sort of subside. And you'll find now going forward, there'll be much more decisive action in everything he does. And I agree entirely with Yashwant. This land scam thing, so-called, will actually hit back on others, because they will say that, see, they want to scuttle our scheme and they're raising these bogies. So those things. And the last thing I'd say, we have discussed this in another show with, again, I think Yashwant and Radhika was also there. Yogi Adityanath, all the dissonance you see is with his peer group, who think they are marginalized. But his core constituency is very happy with him. They think there has been actually improvement in UP during this period. I know for a fact that they think today they're in a much better business environment. There is development happening. You'll find this Purvanchal Expressway is going to be a game changer even before the elections. And the only question mark areas you have is on the western side, due to the farmers' agitation and, your Ajit Singh's son and blah, blah, that area you could be having some, and even there, Aam Aadmi Party in the Tarai borders, etc., they could do some spoilers. But overall, I think BJP is on very sound wicket, and unless they do something dramatically wrong, they will continue. The variables, as many people pointed out, are COVID third wave, whether what's other things going to happen with things are beyond control. Those are issues. And last half a second point to Radhika. Radhika, the vaccination has been, that's an aberration which everybody is talking about in Madhya Pradesh. That was a planned aberration. They have assured that from May onwards, they have had a vaccine holidays on Sunday and Tuesdays. But if you see the overall average, even yesterday, they have clocked over 60 lakhs. And I feel that if you cannot step it up to 1 crore in July, but if they continue to do 45 to 50 lakh average in July and August, by then you will have additional supplies and things can go up. But COVID third wave, big question mark. Because
you painted a very rosy picture of everything. Land stamp, of course, it is going to impact the Samajwadi Party, in your opinion, or the Congress. The land scam has got them worried enough for the Prime Minister to do a virtual meeting with the Chief Minister and the officials concerned with Ayodhya tomorrow. Leading Mahants of Ayodhya have asked for a CBI probe. Let's not ignore the facts completely and present such an optimistic picture as though it is Balle Balle BJP. It is not quite the case.
So the party may be worried, but it cannot be an electoral issue. The people are not concerned about that. That's my point. People are concerned about corruption.
It depends on how the opposition...
Only on two occasions. Either corruption issues affects the national integrity, or if it affects your pocket. If these two things are not getting affected, I don't think people are worried about
all these with other issues, pandemic mismanagement. Why isn't anyone talking about that? People are going to
is the thing.
Going the bodies into the river and not giving fuel. Proper departure to the...
Sorry, Akshay, we are totally out of time. Otherwise, I would have continued this conversation. I'll call you all back and have Radhika also on the show to discuss this. But yes, image management, narrative management is something that the Prime Minister and the BJP are good at. They are doing their best. Let's see how the voter reacts to it. First test is in Uttar Pradesh, really. That's it for now. Thank you for watching this show. We'll see you again, same time next week.
Okay.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.